So, in 1960, there was this 18-year-old kid named Cassius Clay, and he was so utterly terrified of flying to the Rome Olympics that he went to an army surplus store.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he bought a parachute, strapped it to his back, and literally begged the team officials to just let him take a boat instead.
A boat to Rome.
Right, to Europe, just, completely paralyzed by this fear.
Yeah.
But then you fast forward 8 years, and this exact same man, now Muhammad Ali, right, he stares down the United States government.
Wow.
He throws away millions of dollars, and he accepts a 5-year prison sentence with, just this calm smile on his face.
It is a massive behavioral paradox.
Right. So today we're taking a deep dive into how a boxer, of all people, pulled off what might be the ultimate executive decision.
Yeah, and to figure out how a person bridges that gap, between those two extremes, we are going to look at his life through a very specific, somewhat unexpected lens, I would say.
Yeah, I love this setup.
So we have this 2023 INSEAD Executive Master's thesis.
Yeah.
It's by Nikolai Bank. And it basically deconstructs the psychology of executive decision-making.
Okay.
So we're taking these corporate leadership frameworks, things like Daniel Kahneman's System 1 and System 2 thinking, and this thing called the clinical paradigm of anxiety.
Right.
And we're using those to dissect Aliye's most turbulent years, like specifically that window between 1968 and 1977.
Which, it sounds totally counterintuitive, right, to apply, corporate leadership theory to a heavyweight champion.
Right, yeah.
But when you actually look at who Ali was physically, he kind of represents the absolute peak of what behavioral economists call System 1.
Yes, exactly.
Let's talk about his physical intuition for a second, because when you dig into the historical accounts from his inner circle, his brother talks about how as a kid, Ali would literally stand in the yard and just ask his brother to throw rocks at his head.
Yeah, which is just, it's crazy to think about.
It is, and he would just stand there and dodge every single one. He never got hit.
Yeah, and that physical intuition, that is the perfect entry point into this INSEAD research.
Okay.
Because the thesis defines System 1 thinking as intuition, but it goes a little deeper. It describes it as the end product of an implicit learning experience.
Right.
So System 1 is this automatic process. It's incredibly fast. It requires almost zero effort. And crucially, it completely bypasses deliberate rational thought.
So it's just reflex.
Exactly. The brain is essentially relying on deeply ingrained pattern recognition just to keep you alive.
Which translates directly to how he fought in the 1960 Rome Olympics.
Right.
He's in the ring, and he's using these highly unorthodox techniques, right? He's got his hands down by his waist.
Which you're never supposed to do.
Never. And he's just leaning his head back to avoid punches by, fractions of an inch. It completely defied standard boxing fundamentals.
Yeah.
But his reflexes, his pattern recognition was so extraordinarily sharp that it just worked. He won the gold medal.
Right, because he wasn't doing conscious physics calculations on the trajectory of a leather glove coming at his face.
No, his body just knew.
Exactly. He had outsourced his defensive strategy entirely to his autonomic nervous system.
Wow.
And that's the zenith of System 1 capability right there.
Okay, but honestly, let's unpack this, because looking at it from a pure psychological perspective, if his System 1 was that flawless, how do we explain the parachute?
Yeah, that's the big question.
Right. He trusts his reflexes to dodge a fist thrown by a world-class athlete, but he doesn't trust a commercial airplane to just stay in the sky.
Right.
That feels like a massive internal contradiction. If he's this fearless, intuitive machine in the ring, where is this paralyzing fear of flying coming from?
So what's fascinating here is this is exactly where the thesis introduces a framework called the clinical paradigm.
Okay.
It's a psychoanalytic approach to leadership. And it basically argues that all human behavior, no matter how irrational or contradictory it might seem on the surface, it always has a rational unconscious driver. We all operate based on what psychologists call our inner theater.
Or inner theater. Okay. So what was playing in Ali's inner theater then?
A profound search for structure.
Really?
Yeah. The clinical paradigm notes that our emotions contribute heavily to our identity and our behavior. Ali wasn't just a reflex machine, He was actually a deeply sensitive, highly contemplative person.
Okay.
And the biographical sources point out that as a young boy, long before the famer, he would wake up at 2 in the morning, walk out of his house, and just look up at the stars.
Whoa.
Yeah. He felt this heavy, profound sense that he was born to do something for his people. and he was just kind of waiting for a revelation.
So he's like 8 or 10 years old, just waiting in the dark for some cosmic purpose.
Right. His inner world was always seeking a higher structure, a deeper meaning beyond just throwing punches in a ring.
Yeah.
So if we apply the clinical paradigm, that fear of flying, it wasn't a lack of physical courage. It was a manifestation of a deeply active, sensitive internal world that was constantly processing existential threats.
Interesting.
He was highly attuned to things he couldn't control. And that sensitivity is exactly what laid the groundwork for really the most pivotal moment of his life.
Which brings us right to 1968.
Yes.
So let's look at the objective reality of where he is at this exact point. He is 25 years old.
Just 25.
Yeah. And he has converted to the Nation of Islam and changed his name from Cassius Clay. And because he refused induction into the U.S. military on religious grounds, the boxing commissions, they have completely stripped him of his heavyweight title. They banned him from the sport entirely, and he's been sentenced to 5 years in prison.
Yeah.
The stakes are just total. His livelihood, his freedom, his public identity, it's all gone.
It's all gone. And yet, when you watch his interviews from this period, there is absolutely no panic.
None. Like, there is this incredible interview with Bud Collins from 1968 where Ali is remarkably at peace. He just states plainly that he has no regrets. He actually says he gets more pleasure out of being a minister for his faith than, and this is a quote, beating up one of my brothers for money.
Right.
He completely rejects the role of the good boy, or the Uncle Tom, whose only societal function is to entertain a dominant white audience.
Yes.
And there's this very specific, powerful moment in there where he asserts that he didn't lose his millions. He actively turned them down for his faith.
And see, that linguistic distinction, it's critical in understanding his psychology at that exact moment.
That's so.
Well, losing implies that you are a victim of circumstance, right? And the world acted upon you.
Right, it was taken from you.
Exactly. But turning it down, that implies ultimate executive agency.
Oh, wow. Yeah. But here's where it gets really interesting, because looking at it from a pure business perspective, throwing away your peak earning years and risking a prison sentence, it doesn't look like executive genius.
No, it doesn't.
To the press at the time, it looked like an emotional, impulsive mistake. So are we sure this wasn't just System 1 intuition run amok? Like he felt threatened by the establishment, so he just reacted defensively and blew up his own career?
Well, it definitely looks like a defensive reaction from the outside. But the INSEAD research frames this as the ultimate transition into System 2 thinking.
Okay, so System 2 is what exactly?
System 2 is the exact opposite of the fast, reflex-driven System 1.
Right.
System 2 is deliberate. It is painstakingly slow. It requires massive cognitive effort. And most importantly, it is value-based. Executive decision-making, like making the really hard structural calls, it requires basic values to act as a North Star.
A North Star meaning like a completely fixed point of reference?
Yes, a stable metric for right and wrong.
Yeah.
The thesis argues that when leaders stray from their core values, when they lose sight of that North Star, they lose their bearings entirely. They start making decisions based on short-term survival rather than their long-term identity.
Yeah.
What Ali was practicing is what the thesis calls the inside game of leadership.
Okay, wait. What's the difference? How does the inside game differ from the outside game?
So the outside game is what we do.
Okay.
For Ali, that was the competencies, the footwork, the boxing.
Yeah.
It's the resume, right?
Right.
But the inside game is why we do things. It's driven by our values, our ethics, and our spiritual beliefs. Ali realized the inside game was infinitely more important than the outside game.
Oh, I see.
Refusing the draft wasn't a rash emotional choice. It was a deeply calculated alignment. He was aligning his outer life perfectly with his inner North Star, regardless of the cost.
Yeah, that alignment, I mean, it sounds great on paper, but let's talk about the psychological mechanics of actually doing it in real life.
Sure.
Because making a value-based decision that costs you everything is terrifying.
Oh, absolutely.
The INSEAD research dives heavily into how executives handle these types of high-stakes choices and the paralyzing effect of anxiety. How does the brain actually process that level of risk?
Yeah, the thesis highlights a phenomenon called management fright.
Management fright.
Right. When an executive is faced with a decision that carries massive consequences, the brain's amygdala essentially hijacks the prefrontal cortex.
Okay.
The sheer fear of making a mistake causes the decision maker to either freeze up completely, like paralysis by analysis, or they act in absolute haste just to get the psychological discomfort over with.
And the research points out a specific coping mechanism for this, right? Called the transitional object,
Yeah,
which is a wild concept to apply to the corporate world, but it makes so much sense.
it really does. It originates from the developmental psychologist Donald Winnicott.
Okay.
In child psychology, a transitional object is a security blanket or a teddy bear.
Right, right.
It provides a temporary illusion of safety when a child is separated from their mother. But in the corporate world, executives facing intense anxiety will often use the decision itself as a transitional blanket.
Meaning they don't make the decision because it's the right strategic move. They make it because it temporarily lowers their heart rate.
Precisely. They make an ad hoc, sometimes deeply flawed choice, just to relieve the unbearable cognitive dissonance of uncertainty.
Because the brain just craves closure.
Even if it's the wrong closure, yeah.
So, like, for the listeners out there managing a team or running a business, it's like when a manager approves a flawed project just to get the CEO off their back, right?
Exactly.
The approval is the blanket. It makes the immediate pressure stop, even if it creates a disaster down the road.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And in Ali's case, he was facing what the thesis calls extreme survival anxiety.
Oh, absolutely.
His existence, his freedom, his ability to feed his family, it was all actively threatened.
The pressure was just immense.
And the crazy part is, he was actually offered the ultimate security blanket.
Yes, he was.
The authorities basically told him, you don't even have to go to the front lines in Vietnam. Just put on the uniform.
Right.
You can do exhibition matches, entertain the troops, keep your wealth, keep your title, stay the beloved champion, just play the game.
Yeah.
That was his transitional object, sitting right there on a silver platter, the easiest out imaginable.
But he refused to pick it up.
Why? I mean, how does a human being survive that level of existential anxiety without grabbing the easy way out?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, to understand that mechanism, the thesis looks at systems psychodynamics,
Okay.
and specifically something called the container-contained model.
The container-contained model.
Right. To survive massive survival anxiety without making a hasty, compromised decision, basically, without grabbing the blanket.
Mm-hmm.
A leader needs a safe place to physically and psychologically contain that anxiety. They need a psychological container.
So what serves as a container? Because obviously it's not like a physical room.
No, it's a mental and emotional framework. Anxiety happens when the brain perceives an uncontrollable threat to the ego or the self.
Okay.
But if a person's ego is entirely tethered to a divine mission or a rigid set of core values, rather than just worldly success, the threat actually loses its target. For Ali, his container was his faith and his new identity as a minister.
So his belief system effectively neutralized the panic.
Exactly. Faith acts as a container by shifting the timeline.
How so?
It moves the focus from immediate day-to-day survival to an eternal purpose.
Wow.
Because his inner world was so incredibly secure in his religious convictions, he didn't need the external validation of the boxing ring or the millions of dollars to feel safe anymore.
That's incredible.
Yeah. The anxiety of losing everything in the outer world was safely contained by the absolute certainty of his inner world.
That completely reframes how we look at resilience. And the aftermath of this pivot really redefines what we consider greatness. Like, if we fast forward in the sources to his interviews in the 1970s, you actually see the result of that psychological containment.
Right.
In his interview with Dick Cavett, he points out that he is actually busier while banned from boxing than he ever was as an active fighter.
Which is an incredible statement,
Wow.
given the physical demands of training for a heavyweight championship.
Seriously. He tells Cavett he's touring black high schools across the country. He's stepping into neighborhoods to stop gang wars.
Yeah.
And he makes a very poignant observation. He says, because he sacrificed so much, because he visibly gave up the heavyweight title and the money, these kids on the street are actually listening to him.
Right. He had purchased his credibility with his sacrifice.
Yeah.
It's one thing to tell people to stand up for their beliefs. It's another entirely to have the receipts to prove you did it yourself.
Totally. And that evolution just continues to deepen. Like, by the time we get to his 1977 interview in Newcastle, we are listening to a man who has fully integrated his System 2 worldview.
Oh, the Newcastle interview is fascinating.
Isn't it?
Yeah, because you really see how philosophical his processing had become.
It really is. Like, he starts breaking down the literal math of human consciousness for the audience.
Yeah, it's wild.
He says, look, if you are 30 years old, Once you subtract the hours you spent sleeping and the hours you spend traveling or just doing mundane tasks, your brain has really only been conscious and active for about 7 years.
It's a jarring, highly analytical way to frame human mortality.
Right.
It just strips away the illusion of time and forces the listener to confront the urgency of living a meaningful life.
Yeah, and then he holds up a glass of water to the audience. He uses this profound theological analogy. He says, if I told you this simple glass just sprang into existence, that it created itself out of nothing, you'd call me crazy.
Right.
So if a simple glass can't create itself, how could the entire universe? It's pure theology, but delivered with the absolute charisma and pacing of a heavyweight champion.
Right. He is demonstrating that his true realization of power wasn't a physical belt.
Yeah.
The historical sources note his immense pride in being able to sit with kings and leaders across 56 Muslim countries.
Wow.
He had forged a genuine global identity that no athletic commission and no government could strip away from him.
So what does this all mean? It's almost like he realized that boxing was just his resume, not his actual job. Like his fists were just the pen he used to write his real message.
That is a very apt way to look at it.
Yeah.
And this raises an important question about how we, in the modern day, define an effective executive or an effective leader.
Okay.
Because the inside thesis states that a leader really only has two primary mandates: make better decisions and implement them effectively.
But traditionally, throwing away your prime earning years, losing your industry standing, and facing prison, that wouldn't look like an effective business decision. Like, the KPIs on that look terrible.
Well, the short-term KPIs look terrible, sure.
Right.
But look at the long-term implementation. Ali's decision to pivot cost him his prime athletic years, yes. But it successfully implemented his ultimate goal, which was becoming a global symbol of conviction and standing up for his people.
Wow. Yeah.
He mastered the absolute hardest part of leadership, which is the integration of the outer world of action with the inner world of values. He didn't just make a decision, he embodied it.
He perfectly aligned his System 1 physical mastery with his System 2 North Star.
Exactly.
So let's bring this all together for our listeners who are, trying to navigate their own complex, high-stakes decisions today. Ali's life shows us that while our System 1 intuition, our reflexes, our implicit learning, our ability to read a room or react to a market that can make us highly skilled, right? It can get us to the top of our game.
But it is our System 2 alignment with our North Star that actually sustains us.
Right.
Skills can get you the title, but values dictate what you do when the title is threatened. A strong internal framework is what allows a person to survive ultimate survival anxiety without compromising their core identity.
It's a great prompt to evaluate the choices we're making right now in our own careers and lives. When you feel that anxiety rising, ask yourself, are you making a choice just to hold on to a transitional object?
Right.
Are you approving that flawed project, staying in that unfulfilling job, or taking the easy way out just to relieve the immediate stress of the moment? Or are you actively following your North Star, even if it means walking into the unknown and risking the things you've built?
And I think the final thought we can pull from synthesizing Ali's history with this behavioral research is this.
Yeah.
Think about what would have happened if Muhammad Ali had succumbed to that survival anxiety back in 1968.
Oh, man.
If he had compromised his North Star, grabbed the security blanket, and taken that military exhibition tour just to protect his wealth and his heavyweight status.
Yeah, what if he did?
He likely would have won many more boxing matches in his physical prime. The scorecard would have been flawless.
Right.
But would the world still universally call him the greatest today? Or does true greatness actually require a decision that risks everything you've ever built?